If you out here talking about something that's happening in our community and what's wrong in our community and how somebody ain't doing this by us or somebody trying to do this to us and you're not doing anything yourself, I mean, we don't ask you to stop any of your causes or any of your habits or any of your hobbies.
Right.
We just ask you for $1 a week.
Right.
So if you're talking about something that's wrong and you're not able to do that, I'm not going to be your audience because I'm not going to sit here and have a long conversation with somebody about all the stuff that's wrong and we're not going to do anything.
Exactly. What up, though, Black Fridays family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Before we get into today's special guest, I need you to hit that like button, subscribe, make sure that you share a video with a friend, tap in with previous episodes, and then also make sure that you follow us on all major streaming platforms. Now that we got that out the way, I got to introduce you to someone who is out here making change and making things equitable for people that look like me and you. Mr. Dwan Dandridge, how you doing today, brother?
Doing good, man. What up, Doe? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for stopping by the podcast. And you are the president, or you are the CEO and the founder of Black Leaders Detroit, affectionately known as BOD as well. And I got to ask you before we get into the nitty gritty of kind of what the organization stands for and does, how would you define what a Black leader is today in your own opinion?
Great question to lead in. I would say the only correction I'd make to the introduction is I like to say co-founder, right?
Okay.
Like it was the idea floating around in this bald head of mine, but I had to take it to other people to help take it from idea and turn it into the organization that we all affectionately know as BLD today. So CEO and co-founder. Leader. So I guess the best way I could kind of like summarize it is when I look for a leader or a good leader, it's somebody that they sign up to take the bullet first, right? Oftentimes you see people in leadership where they're like, hey, I'm the most important, put everybody out to like protect me, right? And, you know, take the fall for me. I think the best leaders are the ones that I'm willing to get behind are people that work their butt off and they're going to pretty much outwork the rest of the team, but they also will stand in front of the line of fire, right? For those that they call themselves leading. You know what I mean? So that's what I look for in a good leader, somebody that's going to sacrifice and show up and put the work in.
Something I heard about good leaders before or in the past is that they also know how to follow. Would you agree with that as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? Like part of following as a leader is relaxing sometimes, right? Like when I can go and sign up and get behind something you're doing and all I have to do is take on a task. That's easier than what I do like on a daily. You know what I mean? I'm like called to lead and inspire and motivate the team, cast vision, and like put in the work. If I can go find somebody else doing something that I just have to play a very small part, I'm like, just sign me up, tell me what to do. You know what I mean? I don't have to think. I just have to follow your instructions. Like that's easier than what I do on a daily basis. So yeah, I definitely believe that, you know, being able to follow kind of goes hand in hand with being a good leader.
Absolutely. Now, Black Leaders Detroit, you got to break down what are the services that you offer, and then also how did Black Leaders Detroit come about? I know you mentioned that you consider yourself a co-founder and you had the idea and other people were able to make the dream come true, but how does this thing even get built in order to positively impact our business communities and our people that look like us?
And it seems like it went from idea to where we are so fast. But I'll try to kind of like summarize it a bit. I was working on another project altogether, actually a development project. So I have a background as being a general contractor. And leaving my work as a general contractor and running a company with my business partner, Steve Cato, I felt like I was called to go and do something else, and the ministry by vocation is the way I would describe it. So, you know, and trying to figure out what that was supposed to look like, I went and worked for a nonprofit called Life Remodel, white-led nonprofit for 4 years. I was there because I, one, believed in their mission. I'm really passionate about getting resources to Black communities, but also I'm passionate about Black people sharing power and white people not coming in just sharing resources, but also sharing power.
Yeah.
But I also needed to learn and understand how white-led nonprofits raise so much money, so much momentum, and also what a good nonprofit's governance structure and look like. So I got a great education while I was there. But we pretty much, provide capital to Black entrepreneurs. That's what we do, right? Unapologetically. We like to put money in the hands of Black entrepreneurs that need to scale whatever their ambition is or their business. So we service the for-profit and nonprofit sector. And we do that primarily through grants and no interest loans.
Mm-hmm. And for people who are just now learning about BLB, possibly interested in interacting and engaging, especially a business owner or entrepreneur or nonprofit leader, what can they expect in terms of from initial engagement, or how would you recommend that they start to get welcome into the BLD ecosystem?
So of course, most likely they're going to be looking for funding and interested in some funding. So they can go to our website, blackleadsdetroit.org. There's a Get Money tab. We like to make things like crystal clear.
Yeah.
Hit that Get Money tab. You'll see a drop down that talks about any grants and issues that we have going. Our no interest loan will be there so you can learn all about it. We open up the application window for the no interest loan at the first month of every quarter. So that's typically January, April, July, and what's the last one? October, right? So, but you can read about it even before those months roll around, so you can kind of prepare yourself for it a little bit. That's way to engage. I would say always follow us on social media because we announce when events are happening, and lots of our events that we give away money at lots of our events. So, we had a prayer breakfast in January.
Yep.
What do we have? What else do we have coming up? We'll have some Juneteenth events coming up. We'll have the Ride for Equity coming up. We're going to be putting on some events after Ride for Equity. So more announcements will happen about that. But we always talk about that stuff on social media. So you want to follow us on social media for sure.
And then you also have the Black History Month stuff that happened this year, and then also newsletter. People need to get checked into the newsletter. You have a lot of great content and insights that come from there.
If you're a member, you should automatically get our newsletter. If you're a member, you're not getting our newsletter. Please reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we get you on that mailing list. But yeah, you want to follow all of those things. I know it might be hey, I don't feel like getting another email from them, but if you could have received the newsletter, or you could have been following us on social media, and you reach out to us and something that just went by, I'm not going to feel bad about that. You know what I mean? Because we freely share the information. We want to get the resources to you. We do not want you to miss out. So part of it's going to be on you.
Yeah, no gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping. We're not tripping.
Love it. And over the years, because I believe that you celebrated 5 years last year, and then this year you'll be going into your 6-year operations. How have you kind of seen the impact of the work that you've done? And I believe that the number, if I heard you say this somewhere before, either that you're giving away $2 million or $20 million, because I want to make sure I get that right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right now we're over $4 million. Nice. But we're on our way to that 20.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will deployed over $4 million directly in the hands of Black entrepreneurs to date.
Love it.
Thank you.
So now we're going to have a little bit of fun on Black Fridays, which is my favorite part, called Freestyle Fridays.
Let's do it. Let's freestyle.
So Dwan, I've heard that you were a wordsmith, a poet. I'm going to need
Who told you I was a poet? No, I'm definitely not a poet. I can talk all day, but not necessarily a poet.
No bars?
But go ahead.
So you don't have no bars for us?
No bars.
No rhymes?
No bars, but I can tell you an interesting story at the drop of a hat.
Fair enough. All right. So luckily for you, Freestyle Fridays is an assortment of random questions that's all about you. And
sweet.
Just need you to answer each one and answer honestly.
Let's do it.
All right.
I'll rhyme it when in my answer if I can.
For sure. All right. Even better. That's how you get bonus points. All right. So do you prefer television or YouTube?
Television.
Okay. Sticking with the traditional
TV. This is all this gray in my beard. I'm a little bit old for real.
For sure. If you had the opportunity to have dinner with 5 Black leaders, alive or dead, who are you inviting to the dinner table? What y'all eating for dinner?
Oh, great question. I'm gonna go Jesus.
Okay.
Right. Somebody like,
I'm about to say
you said Black leaders. I'm like, yeah. That picture on your grandma's wall, that wasn't Jesus. But so I'm gonna start with Jesus.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm going to stay biblical for a moment and say David as well.
Okay.
I just really appreciate, the complexity of David, from him being fearless in one moment, scared and crying out in another, trifling in some ways, you know what I mean, shooting moves, and doing the unthinkable, you know what I mean, but then repenting. So like, I would definitely have Jesus and David to kick it off. I got 3 more.
You got 3 more.
3 more. Let me see if I can go with Harriet Tubman for sure.
Okay.
Right? I'll have to have Harriet Tubman there.
3 for 3 so far.
Let's go for Malena. Is that the proper name? The brother out in South Africa right now.
Okay.
Malema. Yeah. So I'll probably have him at the dinner table, and let's go Barack Obama.
Okay.
Yeah. So those folks I would have there. And what will we be eating?
Yeah. What's on the menu?
Let's keep it biblical and say fish, right? Fish and some bread.
Fish, bread, and wine.
Fish, bread, wine. Boom, there you go. Fish, bread, and wine.
For sure. That's going to be a lively conversation,
Bottomless
I'm sure.
buckets of fish, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Endless wine.
Endless wine, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What's a song or album that you have on repeat right now?
Song or album I have on repeat right now. I've been listening to this artist. His name is JR, and the album is Life by Stereo. So I've been bumping that a lot lately. It's an older album of his, probably about 10 years old or so. But he's like a kind of fast R&B, almost rock-ish flavor, kind of Christian lyrics dude. So yeah, nice. That's what's on, but kind of on bump and loop. On repeat right now. And then there's another dude, Trip Lee, who's a gospel hip hop person. He got an album 2020. So I've been listening to both of those kind of a lot lately.
I've been getting more diverse into introduced to the Christian hip hop and Christian rap, and it's a lot of people getting slept on for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Back in the day, they're just oh, you pretty much got Lecrae, but now it's a whole, you can take your pick.
No doubt. I can't even think of the brother's name, but there's a brother that I used to listen to him a lot. He's got a song called Gentrify. It's cold. If his name comes to me, I'll make sure if I remember his name before we shut it down, I'll let you know.
All right. And last but not least, we're gonna get more in depth in this in a little bit. But where's your favorite place or a favorite route to ride your bike?
Favorite route to ride my bike is there's a trail at Lower Huron Park that rides from like the beginning of the park if you enter it like at Haggerty, and you can take that all the way down to like Gibraltar by Lake Erie. It's a 25-mile one way and 25-mile back, but you end up by the lake, and it's a bunch of trails. Almost 90% of the route is like your own trail, so you're away from traffic. So it's like feels really safe, and it's pretty. It's a really pretty ride. You got some wide open landscape. You also have tunnels of trees that are kind of canopying over you at some points, and then of course the lake. So that's my favorite.
That's fire. Do you take a crew with you, or you go solo normally? I
go alone mostly.
That's your quiet time.
Mostly I ride alone, but I've been getting more and more into riding with friends and whatnot.
Perfect. Well, thank you for partaking in Freestyle Fridays.
No, man, it's a pleasure.
Hopefully it was simple enough for you.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can get an extra invite. If you got extra invite, I want to pull up to the supper table when you meet.
Oh, man, look, we can make it happen, man. We're going to have plenty of food and wine.
Exactly. So I got to ask you, in terms of the work that you do with BLD Detroit and the values that you have, could we talk a little bit about some of the things that's happened from a political standpoint and a social economic standpoint, socially overall, and kind of what is your disposition? I think that I've heard you talk at previous events, and we've talked about it in person as well, about kind of your thoughts in approaching this year, this administration, things that's happening right now. But really just wanted to kind of get your take on what is the state of Black business, the Black community, and what are the vibes that you're getting right now, and what's your outlook on kind of where we currently are and where we might be headed.
Okay, that's about 5 questions.
It is, yeah.
And I got ADHD. I want to answer them all in one. You know what I mean? So I'll try to focus on them one at a time.
Okay.
State of Black business.
Yes. Let's start there.
It's interesting because you could have a different administration in and have some real serious challenges, right? Mm-hmm. You could also have somebody in that makes it feel like, okay, not only are y'all not working with us, now we're under attack. Mm-hmm. Both of them can be damaging, right? Because it feels like when there's somebody there that's not so much against you, we get lulled to sleep and we aren't as proactive as we are when we feel like and we're worried about us being under attack. So I would say I think we are in a good place from this standpoint. When I think about the term "Make America Great Again," the question that always comes to mind is, when were y'all talking about?
Right.
Because we know that what was great for y'all was hell for us.
Right.
Right. But when I think about that term and let go of the pain I feel when I hear people saying it without a regard for us and us in mind, I'm like, wait a minute. There was something really great back then. We were very organized. We were united in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. We've always had some division, just like any other culture, community. Mm-hmm. But we were, for the most part, united, and we were strategic, and we were committed to making things better, right? So there's something about what's happening now that is giving us the opportunity to unite, to organize, and say, hey, we're going to continue to make things better. So there's I think that we find ourselves in a very, very interesting space and time. And mm-hmm. I know one thing for sure, whatever's thrown at us, we have what it takes to endure it and overcome it, mm-hmm. right? So, yeah.
It's now a time to panic, because that's the vibes that I kind of get from talking to some people. And then, of course, the news does its job, what I feel like, in terms of making us fearful of certain things. And it's now a time to panic.
I would say panic, no. But if you're going to be scared, I understand it, mm-hmm. right? And I think there's a difference, right? So I have a rule that I live by. If you think that there's a fight coming and you find yourself scared, close your eyes and swing. Right? What I mean by that is just get the fight started. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? Now you don't have to worry about if a fight is going down or not, because you have made sure it is. You initiated it. Now you have to respond. You have to fight. So I'm like, if you're scared, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Let's fight anyway. You know what I mean? I've been scared before. I was telling you before we went live, before we started rolling, I had some scary things happening last year, mm-hmm. right? But the thing about being in battle is it could be scary, but you have to run towards the action, right? And not away from it. So when I've been doing a lot of praying, meditating, because I spent so much time scared last year, mm-hmm. that I was not trying to live off of Dwan and survive off of Dwan's strength and wisdom and insight. I was going to the source. So I feel really, really prepared for the right now. And a lot of that preparation is kind of like the scripture that I find in 2 Chronicle, right? Chapter 7 that, we've all probably heard said several times when God responding to Solomon saying, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways, I would hear them. He'll hear them from on high and heal their land, basically. I'm sure I missed a line or two. Luckily, I'm not a pastor. But when I hear that, when I read that, and I live in these times, the temptation is to think about everybody that I think has wicked ways, right? Like the polarizing people. But that passage is talking to me. So it's Dwan, humble yourself. Dwan, pray. Dwan, turn from your wicked ways. So where's that stuff showing up in me, right? And what do I need to uproot, right? Because I want my prayers to be answered, right? Like I want my land to be healed, right? So I think that there's opportunity to correct some things, correct some behaviors for us. Find myself excited when I'm scared. I'm still running to the fight. But I'm definitely not like gonna be froze in panic mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's very well said. Do you feel like the Black business community, we can talk about Detroit, Metro Detroit specifically, have what they need in order to get into that fight or get started with that fight?
I think it's there and available. I don't know if we have it though, because what we need is each other, right? It's like that's really what we need. We really need unity. You know, our motto is like, we want to make the everyday people the hero. Yeah. We raise a decent amount of money. We get big checks from foundations and whatnot, right? They could at any given moment say, you know what? In 2020, Black Lives Matter. We was on Black Lives Matter, but now we on some Black Lives Mattered. Yeah. We've moved on. Yeah. Right? And it's like nothing we could do if they decide to do that, right? We're fortunate because they got some dope people working inside of these foundations that really believe in fairness. And as long as they keep some of them there and on the boards, I think that we still will get some action. But if it went away, we have more than enough amongst ourselves, right? We had 1 million people donating $1 a week to Black Leaders Detroit. You're talking about $52 million a year that we can deploy. And guess what? The no interest loans go out and they come back in, right? Go out and come back in. We replicated a model that's been alive in the Jewish community here in Michigan for 128 years now. They're recycling money that's over a century old, right? They provide, the Hebrew Free Loan provides no interest loans in the Jewish community across the state of Michigan. They gave us their blueprint. We rolled it out. We're not worried about if the banks are going to do right by us or not. We're going to create a pot of money to where we say, yeah, like, you know, y'all been telling us to kiss y'all ass all this time. Now kiss our ass. We don't care. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the position that we could be in if we were to unite.
Absolutely. And I've also heard that the Muslim community, at least in the Metro Detroit area, does that as well, something similar, where it's like a pot of money and we are able to provide for our community out of that pot if they need to start a business, if they need X, Y, and Z done, which I think is truly an amazing model. And I wanted to ask you, what is it like actually economically empowering our community and our Black leaders, Black business owners? Because you have a lot of people that, you know, I'm sure over the years you've heard hundreds, thousands of people say, we need to collectively pot our money together and just give it all to me and I'll figure it out. But, you know, you're actually doing the work and living that each and every day. Yeah. So what is that like for you?
It's rewarding, man. I feel like I have the best job in the city by far. Like, there's not a job in the city that I would rather have than what I get to do every day at Black Leaders Detroit. So yeah, I'm living a dream. I would say we have like one of the most successful models of what you just described, right? And I think that that's going to where Black Leaders Detroit was birthed from. People were like, where'd you come up with? How'd you come with this idea? It's like, it's what we said, like at the dinner table, at the barbershop, or at the beauty shop, right? It's like when we would talk about all the things that are plaguing our community, all the stuff that's wrong, when somebody would inevitably say what you just said. If we would just come together, we'd be all right, right? And we saw that in like Motown, right? It was like Mary Gordy, like, was able to take a loan from a pot of money that their family collectively put into. Right. right? And start Motown.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the blueprint is there. We just have to make up our mind to do it. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I run into somebody and they be like, man, I love what you're doing. I've been meaning to sign up. I'm like, if you do, like, that's more money we can get out the door.
Right.
We built a track record. We spent the first 4 years saying, no, all of these dollars that y'all put in, we will not use those for, we started off by saying for the first 3 years. Then we added a 4th year. We're on 5 years, so we haven't taken any of those dollars that have been put in by our members to use for operations. Like all of that money for like operations and the software and the stuff that we got to, other stuff we got to spend money on, we raised that.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And that comes from like other sources. Eventually, we're going to have to use some of that. But I wanted to build trust. I know how slow we are to trust, and I think we should be slow to trust, right? But I think that we have a track record now that speaks for itself. It's like there's no reason we shouldn't be at least 100,000 members. And I take that personally. I'm like, Dwan, you're not doing something to really resonates with the people enough for them to sign up to donate. You have to get better and figure out what that is. So,
and I know you can't say it, but I'll say it for you. Y'all need to stop being trifling and either pay your $52 a year or donate your $1 a week. It's you spent it on worse. So go ahead and make sure that you sign up for a membership with BLD. And if you don't sign up for a membership, you can donate something. So make sure that you do that. So yeah, I had to get that PSA real quick.
I appreciate it. Of course, I wouldn't say that, but as a brother that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, Terrence Willis, shout out to Terrence. We were having a conversation, as many of us do often in our community, and I was thanking him for his commitment and his donations to Black Leaders Detroit, as he's not only a member, but his company's been a sponsor for the bike ride.
Yep.
He said, man, I got to. Right? He said, if I believe any of this stuff I'm saying, I have to support BLD, right? I couldn't put it any better than that. If you out here talking about something that's happening in our community and what's wrong in our community and how somebody ain't doing this by us or somebody trying to do this to us and you're not doing anything yourself, I mean, we don't ask you to stop any of your causes or any of your habits or any of your hobbies.
Right.
We just ask you for $1 a week.
Right.
So if you're talking about something that's wrong and you're not able to do that, I'm not going to be your audience because I'm not going to sit here and have a long conversation with somebody about all the stuff that's wrong and we're not going to do anything.
Exactly. So you can complain and keep your $1 and get 2 bags of chips, or you can help your community. It's up to you.
It's real simple.
It's up to you. I was talking to somebody earlier today about the DE&I efforts and what kind of made me upset in terms of people saying now that they want to boycott these large retailers or corporations because they weren't supporting DE&I efforts anymore. And my whole thing is that I don't want to hear about DE&I, and I don't want to hear about DE&I, what these large corporations are doing, if you ain't supported your local Black-owned business lately, or if you haven't made the effort to try to source from a Black-owned business or a Black-owned organization, things like that. That's my own personal grievance, but I was wondering if you had any thoughts around that, because I feel like that's where the true DE&I is. These organizations, companies are hiring people that look like us. They're able to economically impact their communities and they're provide opportunities, resources for us. At least most of us, I would say. But yeah, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
So I have a lot of thoughts. I'll keep it to 3.
Okay.
So the first thought is we get caught up in press releases really quickly, right? If we go back to 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, then the young folks out there bravely protesting, lots of corporations came to the table, right? They made public statements, everybody did. And then lots of them made big pledges, $1 billion pledges, $100 billion pledges. Those pledges oftentimes didn't have a legit plan behind them. They would put a face out there and say, this person is over it. It will be an announcement in Cranes and Metro and all the other news outlets. Then you go to meet with that person and after talking to them about 15, 20 minutes, it was obvious, damn, they did you bold, right? Like they put you out here and everybody's coming to you expecting there to be some like real passion and plan behind this, and there isn't one. So they try to do some things and hurry up and whatnot, but they're grading themselves, right? Mm-hmm. But we were very hopeful, understandably so. On the flip side, there are going to be announcements from some companies that like, they just don't want to be in harm's way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They like, look, if these mofos is coming after people, let them know, you don't have to come over here. We just won't do DEI, right?
Right. Some
of them will say, we won't call it that. We won't call it something else. We'll just continue to do it because we believe in it. Mm-hmm. So what we have to do is figure out how to not get so caught up and be so attached to announcements, because that's a marketing team and a board of directors saying, hey, we need to go in this direction, right? We're being asked right now, like by funders, right? Like that cut big checks to for organizations like these. These checks are big. They're like, hey, are y'all going to continue to be Black Leaders Detroit? I got calls 2 days after the election and was like, hey, what y'all going to do? Because they going to potentially come for organizations like y'all, right? So we're faced with that. I can't tell you how many times we met with our lawyers, right? And our board to say, okay, like what language do we use, right? And there's an agreed upon language that describes us in a deficit framing language. It's the, impoverished, disinvested, disenfranchised, underserved, all those things. We don't see the people that we like work with that way. We see them as the heroes in our community, and we will not describe them that way. We are considering some language. It's like very strategic language and like that describes us without using the term Black. Nah, our name ain't going nowhere. Right. We're going to be Black Leaders Detroit.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're making a decision to do that. That could mean all kind of lawsuits and all kind of stuff. So asking somebody to sign up for all that stuff is not always reasonable. But again, I think we just need to be careful that we get so swept up in that. Now, my other thought is we talking about boycotting this store, that store, and it feel like we've been boycotting each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, okay, can we unboycott ourselves?
Yeah.
Right? Can we like intentionally, we're really big at responding and saying, okay, we're going to tear something down or we're going to like stop something. What we could really get better at, in my opinion, is building something up.
100%.
And sustaining it, right? So if we take that type of like passion and kind of keep it there and say, hey, what all can we collectively come together and build up, right? It works both ways, right? Like you got to shop somewhere,
right?
If you look at my like debit card history any month, you're going to see, and I just went through and highlighted all the Black-owned businesses. Like I'm regulars in these spots. Yep. Like you're going to see I'm a frequent flyer. This is a Black-owned company. You know what I mean? That I hit at least once a week, probably twice a week, right?
Shout out to the Energy Zone.
Shout out to the Energy Zone, right? So those are my thoughts about it. Yeah, like, if you decide you're not going to spend your dollars somewhere, that's cool. If we can collectively come together and have a real genuine display of power, I'm with that. But understand, if we're not building wealth and having ourselves, because you can go to the table with $1 million, but we could also build up some wealth where we sitting at the table and building the tables. And then you already put in position to have a different level of conversation with people.
Right.
Those are some of my thoughts on it.
Love it. I love that. And to piggyback off of that part of the conversation, let's talk strategy a little bit. What can, in your opinion, and from what you've seen, because you cut a lot of large checks and then also have the opportunity to come in contact with so many great Black businesses and organizations, what can our businesses, organizations do to become more sustainable? So thinking about the current climate we're in, and you have opportunities to, people are worried about funding when it comes to grants or loans and things like that, especially if you're a minority business. But what can you do to get sustainable on your own or based off of the merit that you've already built with your business?
That's a really great question. I wish I could claim to be an expert on this. I will not, right? But I do have some thoughts. So I want to say that first, that I'm not an expert on this. But I do have some thoughts based on just exposure and research that I'm doing like every day. I think marketing is something that we think is, oftentimes when we're business owners, we see marketing as if I can afford to, right, line item, right, as opposed to like it being mandatory.
Correct.
So oftentimes our business owners have a very good product, maybe the best. And because they have a very good product or service or maybe the best, they think that means people are going to come to them. And not realizing that people don't go to the best. People go to the one that's promoted best, the one that has the best marketing plan. Mm-hmm. So seeing marketing as if I can ever afford to, maybe I will, I think that really is hindering lots of businesses. Other thing that I see happening is we have people that start businesses because they're passionate about something. Mm-hmm. And there's room for that. Or they're skilled at something. Yeah. And they start a business, not knowing that there's two different skill sets, right? Like I was a general contractor. I started out in carpentry. So I thought I was learning how to run a business because I was working under a third generation carpenter who was really, really good at carpentry. Mm-hmm. Wasn't the best businessman. So I didn't realize that I wasn't really learning how to run a business well, you know? Mm-hmm. So after running my business poorly for 3 years, I was like, man, like I'm a decent carpenter, but I'm a terrible businessman. Like I need to spend the same amount of time that I spent learning how to swing a hammer, plumb a wall, mm-hmm. and operate a saw. I need to spend that same amount of time working under a really good business person mm-hmm. and learning from them. And that just sent me on like a different course. And I'm, able to, run businesses successfully because I spent time learning how to successfully create infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in terms of, we talked about how to get your business sustainable or some opportunities that you have there. From a Black Leaders Detroit standpoint, I've noticed that you all started to push out more social media content. So is that like from the marketing aspect that you talked about, is that approach that you all took in terms of being able to better communicate with the community?
I'm glad you noticed that because definitely strategically that is something we're very intentional about. Mm. Having a budget to work towards making sure that we're keeping content going, making sure the proper team members are there that understand that. Again, going back to 2020, the space for us to raise money was spending time, me going out to corporations, and you're limited with staff and how much time that you have. Yeah. So the approach was, okay, it makes most sense for me to spend time fundraising with foundations and corporations. Mm. But now, we're at the point where the current climate is bringing the audience together to the forefront. So our message, we feel like, is going to resonate with people that believe in fairness, that believe in equity. Yeah. So as equity's under attack, we're like, hey, right, we'll play D, right, or offense, mm-hmm. Whichever way you want to look at it, and say, like, we are for equity no matter who's pushing back against it. In fact, we will ride our bikes cross country in the name of equity, mm-hmm. right, to fight for it. So, yes, we've been really intentional about making sure that we have a bigger social media presence. We're putting out more content. We're speaking directly to issues that are happening in real time. Mm-hmm. And it's all genuine. It's all really who we are anyway. So it mm-hmm. feels natural. So much of like me trying to wrap my mind around creating content was, this doesn't feel natural. You know what mm-hmm. I mean? But like, with what's happening right now, it feels very natural. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you mentioned your team, and from earlier when you talked about you consider yourself a co-founder of BLD. In terms of the team that you build out, you have a board, you have actual staff of people who work with you and are doing this work each and every day. How did you develop that team over the years, going into almost 6 years with BLD? And also, if you wanted to definitely shout them out. We had one of the COO of BOD, Sharia. She came on here last year. So
she's straight.
And a handful of others that, of course, you know, make the magic happen.
No, like Sharia is fire. And like so much of like our weathering storms of last year, and also like positioning us well to like go where we're going this year. We're getting ready to experience exponential growth this year. Like her sitting in the role of COO, making sure that we have the structures in place and the team has everything that they need. Like she's responsible for that. And she's doing an incredible job, even just since stepping into that role in November. But I would love to take credit and be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's what I do, is put together teams. It's like, but it's been God, man. Like I'm just being real. If anybody wants to know the secret sauce and they were like, how are they doing what they do? Right? It's like, if I come to you and you catch me in one of my like prideful moments and I start trying to break down all the ways that all the things that we do, and I don't put like prayer and petitioning the Father for wisdom, insight, and connections, like I was lying to you and I was on some ego stuff that day. So like, forgive me. You know what I mean? But if you want to know why it really works, it has so much to do with God just bringing things across our path and us being able to like benefit from it, right? So yeah, Sharia was running Juneteenth Jubilee when we met. And a board member, a founding board member, Quan Nellums, made an introduction. It was like, hey, somebody doing something dope and looking for some sponsorship. So met her, found out why she was doing it. This was like she was doing Juneteenth Jubilee, so we were able to sponsor her the first time I met her. And then when I found out her why, I was like, man, like she should be here leading this component of the work that we do. So I asked her, I was like, hey, what would it take for you to consider like leaving where you at, coming to work with us? And she told me, and she gave me a number. And it sounded like, you know, a lot for a 2.5-year-old nonprofit at the time, right? But I was like, all right, you know, I just need to know what it is. You know what I mean? We went out, found that, and made sure we were able to secure it for multiple years, and went back and had that conversation. I didn't go back and say, hey, will you take this? Like, no, like you said this number, right? Like, and we have it. So
let's work.
It worked out. And she'll tell the story, like, you know, the way she tells the story, she said the day we were supposed to meet, me, her, and our former COO at the time, were supposed to have lunch. And the day that was set up, she didn't have like time. She couldn't make an excuse on like why to leave and come. She told you that story?
She told us on here,
She told you on here? So y'all already know, right? It's like, you know, God just worked it out. Jared, who is our director of like pretty much grant writing and storytelling. Jared is a gifted writer. Jared had never written a grant before in his life, but he's a gifted writer. Jared was our first employee on a part-time level, just because he's like a Swiss Army knife. If there's something that needs to be done, Jared will figure out how to learn how to do it. He'll find a training module somewhere online, teach himself, and go for it. But we needed somebody that could write grants and do the grant reporting. That's a big part of the work that we do when it comes to fundraising. And connected Jared with some professional grant writers that's what they do for a living. And Jared has been writing grants for us ever since. And he is really, really good at it, right? So Lorenz is our loan officer. And all these folks are Detroiters too. It's the dope part. And Lorenz is getting money out the door like crazy. He is just really, really good. And his like people skills are amazing. You know what I mean? I like to tell people that there's some folks that we not gonna say no to, but we're gonna have to tell them not right now. And when we were looking for somebody to take on this role, I told the team that was helping us like find the person, I said, we want somebody that if they have to tell somebody, no, we're not gonna be able to approve this loan at the moment, I want them to tell the person in such a way that they hang up the phone and they sign up to donate to Black Leaders Detroit as soon as they hang up.
Mm-hmm.
And Lorenz is able to do that. Lorenz is able to deliver a message in a way that makes you feel loved at the same time, even if he's not giving you the response that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Gifted brother. Tiana is stepped into Sharia's former role, right? Or a version of it, where she's overseeing our events strategy, right? Like we put on the bike ride and a number of other like really well-run events. And Tiana was running all of our admin needs before she stepped into this role. Tiana's very ambitious and she wanted to move up the ranks. So as this spot became open, she wanted it and she went for it. And the way God works is like before this spot even became open, Tiana had asked about a opportunity to take a class at Spelman. It was online for like events, what was it? Project manager.
Okay.
Right. And we were able to cover the cost of her taking on. We really believe in developing people and investing into our employees here. So she took the course, came in first in the class, and she's just been steady, like improving and studying and getting better. And we just like in great hands with Tiana leading us in our events right now. As this year's bike ride is going to be the biggest ever. So we just added a new full-time employee. We have a few part-time positions.
Okay.
From financial controller, also someone helping me with fund development, and we just brought a new person on that's going to be starting tomorrow. She's a dynamic sister. We're really excited about her, and we have really, really high expectations. So that's kind of, how some of it kind of fell into our lap, or just like having the right people, right time. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I guess maybe my skill set plays a small part and factors into it. I think I'm decent at inspiring people, like loving people, from just being honest, and like respecting people. So it's like when you have to say something challenging to someone or correct them, when you've like loved them first, they're more open to receiving it, right? They don't feel beat down. They feel called out, and I think encouraged and challenged. Yeah. Right. So that's it.
That's dope. So Dwan, being the CEO of BLD, would love to know, what does a day in the life look like for you, from the time that you wake up to the time you go into bed? What's that experience like for you?
So first thing I do to kind of start my day off is I check. Well, first thing I do is I get up, spend some time in prayer, meditating, trying to like hear what God is saying to me in that day specifically, right? And making sure that I am kind of like centering myself and focused on the right things. Then I may spend a little bit of time looking at a passage of scripture that feels relevant to what I'm going through in life at the moment, and spend some time just praising the Lord and just thanking God. That's what a day is supposed to look like for me. I don't always do that. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Do like make sure I'm being real, because I think God might be listening. Boy, no, he ain't do that this morning. But so that's how I kick my day off. And then we typically, spend some time, give my wife a kiss, catch up with her in the morning, talk about what her day's going to consist of, what my day is going to consist of, then jump on an 8:30 call, check in with the team. We kind of report out to each other what we're getting ready to work on for the day, and if whatever type of help we need from one another, and then kind of like take off on task and, emails and figuring out like who I need to be meeting with, taking any meetings. Right now, because we're gearing up for the ride, I work in training rides several days a week, kind of in preparation for that. And yeah, just making sure I'm doing, the stuff that does not show up on, video when we're going out to pass out checks. There's a lot that happens kind of behind the scenes leading up to that. But like lots of networking, lots of connecting with the people that can help us make stuff happen. And yeah, that's kind of what a day in the life looks like for me.
So in terms of the work that you all are doing, especially we're wrapping up Black History Month here, you all have been, I forget the name of the thing where they used to go around surprising people with the checks, like going to their door. Y'all did that with people in real time, which is amazing. So if you could talk about that initiative and giving away money during Black History Month.
Yeah, so the last couple of Black History Months, we've given away $100,000 for Black History Month. We believe in celebrating we think that really honoring the folks that created the Black history that we celebrate today, to really honor them, you should be creating Black history for tomorrow, right? To just say, hey, we're gonna shout out this ancestor or this person that did this dope thing, that's cool, but we celebrate it by honoring those that are creating that same type of legacy in real time, right? It's like, we feel like they're the ones that are really paying tribute to and keeping the work going. So we also believe in sharing power, right? So we invite our members to nominate Black-led nonprofits that they think are doing dope work and impactful work in the city of Detroit. So we take those nominations and we narrow it down to 20. And we take those 20 and we try our best to surprise them. It gets harder to surprise them mid-month. People see one of us coming, they like, oh, they about to bring us one of them checks. You know what I mean? Sometimes I go in places and I'm just going to shop and they be like, damn, I thought he was bringing one of them checks. They be looking all mad at me when I leave. You know what I mean? You know, you see somebody reflection in the door.
Right.
They be like, looking at each other.
Like, following you to the car, like, I know you got it in the trunk.
But no, man, so we've been able to, again, this month, celebrate Black History Month by giving away $100,000. We're not done yet. We still have a couple nonprofits to roll up on and surprise them with checks, hopefully, or at the very least give them a check. Because, you know, I think some of them be playing it off like they surprised now. But no, we got some folks doing some dope work. I get to learn about new nonprofits every year because of some of the nominations that we receive.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's part of the beauty of the work that you do as well. Yes, you stay encouraged because you're like, oh man, like you have somebody out here like doing this, like for this like group and this doing it for this group. And so many times we're practitioners, right? Yeah. So it's like, you know, the nonprofit leaders, they overcame this thing and then they're like, oh, I want to help other people overcome it. And I know how to overcome it, right? Yeah. So like they're really serious about it. Absolutely. Now, Bike Ride for Equity, you gotta break this down for us. Give us the origin and tell us what's to come, because you said the biggest one yet and is happening this year. And when I heard a little bit of like what's expected of this bike ride, I'm like, it's like, let me get the training. Let me get the training now. Exactly. Yes, so, yes. Yeah. So the origin is when I talk and teach strategy, I like to say, you know, raising money and raising momentum kind of go hand in hand. So the thought is you have to have something big that people can like attach themselves to, right? When I was at Life Remodel, I was project managing the 6-day project. 10,000 volunteers. Back then it was 10,000, now it's 5,000, but 10,000 volunteers over the course of 6 days coming to tackle Blight and Beautify 360 city blocks. That sounds very big, audacious, and people can get behind it and they can see results right afterwards. So when starting Black Leaders Detroit, I knew we needed a 6-day project. I just didn't know what it would be. So at a certain point, I was like, you know what, we're gonna do a bike ride around the city of Detroit. We're going to ride past Black business corridors, past and present. So I had a conversation with Jamon Jordan. It was like, hey, can you like help me identify locations where Black businesses or nonprofits used to exist so I can make them a part of this route? This was 2020, going into 2021. So 2021, we were supposed to do like a 54 mile bike ride. We're gonna take off from like the marina
the Black Rum Marina downtown, and just go loop, end up by Livernois and back through downtown, past Hot Sam's and some other stuff. Well, you couldn't get a special events permit because of COVID. They were reluctant to pass any of them out because they didn't want large gatherings of people. So it took so long to get a special events permit. Looked like we were going to finally get it, but we didn't have enough notice to organize this thing and run it well. And I didn't want to do something half-cocked and everybody be disappointed. So at a certain point, I was like, okay, we're going to have to punt on this bike ride this year. And I was trying to figure out what could we do in its place. And again, it's 2021. Me and the family were up north at a place I had never been before, Gaylord, Michigan. And we were trying to get like a family vacation in, and it was kind of hard to figure out how to navigate that in 2021, but we were able to pull it off. Well, while up there, you know, at Gaylord, you're an hour away from Mackinac, but you're also like an hour away from Traverse City. So we ended up hitting both of those. So when we went to Mackinac, it had dawned on me that this was the first year that the Mackinac Policy Conference was going to be pushed back to September, right? Because it was canceled in 2020, of course, but in 2021, they were like, instead of canceling, we'll push it back and make it safe. So I was riding in the car with my son. He was 14 or 15 at the time, Bati. And shout out to Bati. I was like, hey, what if I did a bike ride from Detroit to Mackinac? Thinking to do it intentionally before the policy conference and whatnot. I was like, he was like, man, that could work, right? So we started talking through it and whatnot. The purpose being raising momentum and trying to raise some money, right? And then I, bounced it off a board member, and the board member was like, man, that's crazy. But then we talked through, it was like, but it could work, right? So I was reluctant to take it to my wife. And reason is, like, I have a pacemaker for people that a lot of people don't know. I have a pacemaker because I have a heart condition called ventricular tachycardia, right? And when I have it, like, I've had like deadly episodes, right? So I was reluctant to take it to her because I'm like, she's gonna be worried that I'm gonna die on this bike ride and whatnot. And rightfully so. I understand why, she'd be concerned. So eventually took it to her. It was like, of course I wouldn't do this without getting the green light from my cardiologist, my doctor and whatnot. And she was like, all right. But then she thought it was a good idea. And kind of the rest has been history. You know what I mean? Like for 4 years straight, we rode bikes from Detroit to Mackinac the week before the Mackinac Policy Conference. We raised some money. We made a bunch of friends in different cities on the way where we held community conversations about race, equity. What does it mean to be good neighbors in spite like our differences? And, at Mackinac Policy Conference, you have everybody there. Like all the decision makers are there.
Right.
And, they may not want to meet with Dwan from Black Leads Detroit, but everybody want to meet with whoever this crazy dude is that rode his bike up here from Detroit. So it's been very helpful for us in a number of fronts. And, we're excited about what's going to happen Ride for Equity 2025.
I love that. And you're going bigger and better this year. So is the ride itself extending? Or like what's going to be, what should people expect who are interested this year?
So we're going to be riding this year from Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma to Wall Street in New York.
Say that one more time for the
Black Wall Street to Wall Street, 1,680 something miles.
Not Michigan, not Detroit to Mackinac.
No,
you're going Oklahoma to New York.
Tulsa, Oklahoma to New York. And like strategically, right, like we were looking at it 2 years ago and we said, okay, at the end of 2024, we'll have a 3-year track record of doing our no interest loans, right? So we will have mastered it. We'll also have 4+ years of doing our grants. So now we have something that, okay, we can say proof of concept has happened in Detroit.
Yeah.
We have something that we can share with other cities that have similar challenges. We also thought we probably could count on the election of 2024 being divisive. Right? And us being in a time where people are hungry and thirsty to have conversations that will bring people together. So talk about unity. So we were kind of counting on some of that. And who knew it would be this crazy.
Yeah.
Right. But we thought, let's plan to do this bike ride across country at that point. That way we'll raise awareness on a grand scale. We'll be able to go after and try to see if we can get 500,000 people to sign up to donate $1 a week, right? We do enough effective storytelling, we'll be able to raise some money. We can bring some serious dollars back to Detroit. But not only that, let's identify 2 cities in 2025 that we can expand to and start working with them in 2026 and take our blueprint to them and help them build out their version of this.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we are up to. In 2025.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
And then you are offering a new product from what I've heard. Is there anything you could let us know about that? I know it's not, this would be exclusive, so to speak. So,
Yeah. So we're going to announce it like in full detail at an event on March 7th. But this will be a no-interest loan that will be geared toward Black real estate developers in the city of Detroit. So nothing like it exists right now. And as we talk about how development seems to happen and focus so much on downtown, midtown, Corktown, and we're not seeing the same level of commitment and investment in the neighborhoods, especially on the residential front. Right. We want to do something about that. We think that there's real opportunity for us to build our communities back. There's real opportunity for us to make the money, right? That is made when real estate houses are rehabbed and sold and whatnot. And we just want to make sure that our Black developers around Detroit were put in the game. So more to come.
Love it. Love it. So Dwan, what's next? What's on the horizon? You gave us one sneak preview as to what's happening, but what's on the horizon for you? What's next for BLD? Let us know what you see in your crystal ball.
God knows, man. God knows, right? I plan to continue to do a lot of praying and listening, right? I'm really excited about the bike ride. I'd say one of the things that, I really look forward to is we're going to have community conversations along this ride as well. And I'll share with you something that my dad said over dinner about 6 months ago. And this is kind of like the heartbeat of the conversation that we'll have. And I can't even remember the context, Giselle, if I'm being honest, or what made him say this, but he said this simply: we're not who they say we are. And as he said that, I immediately started thinking about that from the lens of a Black man that grew up in Detroit. And it's like, if I think about me and my peers, we're not criminals, right? We're not lazy. We're not absent fathers or husbands. We're not absent from our community. None of those things apply to us. But then I took it a step farther and I was like, what does this mean for a white man with a different lived experience? That same statement, we're not who they say we are, or a woman, or, any group, right, that somebody would identify with. What does that same statement mean for them? And we realized that the cameras are going to go and find the worst representatives from all of our groups and put them out as if they're the norm, right? So we're thinking things about people and we lumping the whole group in, right? Off of some bad actors, and people are thinking the same thing about us.
Right.
So the thought is, what if we have conversations and invite people out to say, hey, what we've heard about you is probably incomplete at best or a lie at worst. What if we got together and got to know who we are directly from each other,
right, and
see how many things we have in common and what spaces we can work together. So I'm extremely excited about that. That's what's on the horizon. That's what's going to be happening as we ride our bikes from city to city across the country, from Black Wall Street to Wall Street. And I'm looking forward to getting with groups of people from all different backgrounds. And making some real friendships and solving some real issues.
Phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
Well, Dwan, this has been amazing, man. This is a great way to wrap up Black History Month and to cap off Black History 2025. I'm a member of BLD. I love the work that you all been doing. I've had the pleasure of knowing you, being in the same spaces with you over the last few years, and it's truly amazing to kind of see where you were when I first moved back to in 2022 to now. You fast forward a few years and the amazing things that you all are working on and the team that you're building, man. And it's always love when I see them and the things that you all do. And you got a lifelong supporter in me. So I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. I hope you live forever.
I do too. Thank you. And same to you. Same to you.
Thanks,
for sure.
Man. Thanks for having me and hanging out with me. Let me hang out with you.
Absolutely. And everybody watching. Oh, before we get up out of here, how can people get in contact with you? How can they follow BLD, the journey, donate? What's all that?
Black Leaders Detroit. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's BL Detroit in some spots, Black Leaders Detroit in others. Definitely, if you want to learn more about the Ride for Equity, go to ride4equity.org. If you want to become a member, learn more about Black Leaders Detroit, go to blackleadersdetroit.org. There's a join now button that you can hit. Sign up to donate $1 a week, $4 a month, $52 a year, or my favorite is the other button if you want to be a little bit more generous. Thank you.
That's it. That's it. We appreciate y'all watching, listening. We'll tap in with y'all soon. Peace.